Houston is one of the most strategic cities in America, a place where energy, freight, industry, and population growth collide at full speed. And now, one of the biggest highway megaprojects in the United States is rising right through its core. On paper, the I-45 North Houston Highway Improvement Project looks like a colossal transportation rebuild, a multi-billion-dollar answer to congestion, safety, and regional growth. But when you look closer, something far more important comes into focus. This is not just about moving cars faster. This is about redesigning how a vulnerable American metropolis survives pressure from growth, pressure from storms, pressure from evacuation demands, and pressure from a future that is arriving faster than old infrastructure can handle. According to TxDOT, the project will reconstruct I-45 from Beltway 8 to I-10, reroute I-45 through downtown along I-10 and US 59 by I-69, and modernize parts of the wider freeway system around central Houston. That is why the number attached to this story matters so much. We are talking about a project now widely described as costing around $13 billion, one of the largest infrastructure efforts in Texas. Construction Dive reported that the groundbreaking took place in October 2024 and that the full effort could take roughly 18 years. Other local coverage has pointed to completion timelines stretching into the late 2030s, which tells you immediately that this is not a cosmetic upgrade. This is a generational rebuild of one of Houston's most important arteries. And when TxDOT calls it transformative, that is not marketing fluff. This corridor has roots in designs from the 1950s and 1960s, while the surrounding population and freight intensity have expanded dramatically. According to the Federal Highway Administration, the area population has doubled since the original design largely took shape. If you want to understand how megaprojects, technology, and infrastructure reveal the real strategic power of the United States, subscribe to the channel and hit like. Here, every major build tells a bigger story about ambition, engineering, and the systems shaping America's future. Your support helps us keep bringing you deep, high-impact analysis of the projects, redefining national power. Now, here's where the story gets more interesting. This is not a one-agency road job. According to TxDOT and the City of Houston, the project has involved coordination with the City of Houston, Harris County, the Harris County Flood Control District, Metro, and federal transportation authorities. That detail changes everything, because if this were only a lane expansion story, the flood control angle would not sit so prominently inside the project's public rationale. But it does. The City of Houston explicitly lists reduced flooding on and off the freeway as one of its goals for the NHHIP. The FHWA agreement allowing the project to move forward also highlighted stormwater drainage improvements and evacuation capability as core objectives. So the deeper truth is not that the flood role is imaginary. The deeper truth is that many people hear highway widening and miss the fact that Houston is also embedding resilience logic into the same concrete footprint. And that makes perfect sense when you remember where this project is being built. Houston is one of the largest and fastest growing metropolitan regions in the country. According to the Houston-Galveston Area Council, the broader region's population stands around 7.2 million and is projected to reach 10.6 million by 2045. More people means more vehicles, more freight, more paved surfaces, more drainage stress, and far more pressure on emergency movement during crisis events. A corridor like I-45 is not just a commuter route in that environment. It becomes part of the city's operating system. The FHWA specifically says the NHHIP is intended to improve the capabilities of I-45 as an emergency evacuation route while also supporting a significant increase in travel demand across the Houston-Galveston region. In other words, mobility and resilience are fused together here. This is where the so-called hidden detail starts to emerge. The project includes classic highway features, new capacity, managed express lanes, redesigned interchanges, rerouted alignments, and corrected geometry in downtown Houston. According to the FHWA, the plan adds 4 managed express lanes on I-45 from downtown to Beltway 8 North, reroutes I-45 to run parallel with I-10 and US 59 to I-69 through downtown, realigns sections of I-10 and I-69, and lowers I-69 between I-10 and Spur 527 to reduce unsafe weaving. But the same official materials also keep returning to flood mitigation. Construction Dive reported that early work includes box culverts directing stormwater to detention ponds. TxDOT's own stormwater resiliency page says the project incorporates advanced stormwater systems capable of handling enough water to fill the Astrodome nearly 1.5 times. That is not decorative drainage. That is major hydraulic infrastructure hidden inside what many people assume is only a road project. And the flood control evidence gets even more concrete. TXDOT says the NHHIP's drainage models were developed with the Harris County Flood Control District and updated using Atlas 14 rainfall data, which incorporated more historical rainfall information, including major storm experience associated with Hurricane Harvey. In the project's record of decision, TXDOT states the selected alternative is designed to collect, convey, and detain runoff not only from the highways but also from adjacent properties that currently drain toward the highway system. That same official document says the drainage improvements would produce a 2-foot to 5-foot reduction in 500-year water surface elevations along Little White Oak Bayou, benefiting roughly 760 structures. This is the moment when the narrative changes, because now the project is no longer just a bigger freeway, it becomes a combined mobility and water management machine. The strongest example of that dual-purpose engineering may be Independence Heights. TXDOT materials say this area has routinely flooded and that the NHHIP proposes replacing drainage culverts with bridges, expanding underground pipe capacity, and adding detention features that would remove much of the area from the floodplain. One official drainage brochure says the project would mean 795 fewer flooded acres and 1,525 fewer flooded structures in the affected area. Segment 2 materials say there will be 14 additional detention ponds with 42% greater capacity than required. That is the kind of detail that reveals the real scale of what is happening. A road project that is building extra detention capacity beyond minimum requirement is behaving like strategic resilience infrastructure, not as a side note, as an embedded design principle. There is also a hard reality here that cannot be ignored. This project has been controversial for years, and any serious analysis has to say that plainly. The Texas Tribune reported that the expansion is expected to displace more than 1,000 residents and 300 businesses. Associated Press reported impacts affecting more than 1,000 homes and apartments, 344 businesses, 2 schools, and 5 places of worship in largely Black and Latino communities. TXDOT's own FAQ acknowledges displacements involving homes, places of worship, schools, medical facilities, and public housing properties such as Clayton Homes and part of Kelly Village. So this is not a simple victory story. It is a giant American infrastructure story, which means engineering ambition, regional strategy, and human cost are all colliding in the same corridor. Still, if you step back and look at the full architecture of the plan, the strategic logic becomes obvious. Houston is not just rebuilding a highway because traffic is annoying. It is rebuilding a corridor that must carry growth, protect movement, support freight, improve evacuation performance, and reduce the city's exposure to repeated stormwater failures. Early construction already reflects that reality. TXDOT says Segment 3B1 is specifically a drainage improvement project along St. Emmanuel Street east of downtown, and construction updates have shown work on culverts, pump stations, retaining walls, and other enabling systems before the full roadway transformation is even complete. In other words, the drainage backbone is not an afterthought coming later. It is part of the opening move. So the real hidden detail of I-45 is not that Houston secretly built a flood barrier and forgot to mention it. The truth is more powerful than that. Houston is using a highway megaproject to solve multiple urban vulnerabilities at once: mobility, safety, evacuation, water control, regional competitiveness. This is what advanced infrastructure power looks like in the United States when it is operating at full scale. One corridor, multiple missions, massive civil works, and a design philosophy that treats transportation and resilience as inseparable. According to official project documents, the highways in this project are being designed to remain passable in rain events, similar to Houston's recent major floods. That line alone tells you this is about much more than lane counts. It is about keeping a strategic American city functioning when the pressure hits hardest. And that is why this project matters beyond Texas. If Houston can turn a controversial freeway rebuild into a hybrid system of transport capacity, stormwater control, and urban survival, then this may become a template for how the next generation of American infrastructure gets built. Not pretty, not simple, not uncontested, but huge, strategic, and designed for a harsher future. So yes, the I-45 rebuild is a highway story, but it is also a warning and a blueprint. In the age of population growth, climate stress, and national competition, the strongest cities will not be the ones that merely expand. They will be the ones that hide resilience inside expansion and make survival part of the design. Has this changed the way you see giant infrastructure projects? Tell me in the comments. Do you think other mega projects across America are hiding an even bigger strategic purpose beneath the surface?